Alrighty, y'all. 421.23. It's time to go ahead and jump into gear and get this analysis on the way. So, as you can see here, what I've done is I've started to learn a bit of trading code. So, TradingView, PineScript, and TradingView uses PineScript. That's the proprietary coding language. I've started to learn a bit of that, and I've started to learn a bit of MQL4 in an effort to really be a bit more detailed with my strategies. So this is what this is, but it's not what we're going to focus on today. We're going to go to the tried and true, good old, we're going to turn off all of these indicators like we're used to, and we're going good old price action, folks. So I'm going to go ahead and start from the top as usual on the NASDAQ. So what we were looking for is price to ultimately come into the zone and then fall off. So we saw it blast through the zone and then pull back or fall down, right? Blast through, breaking lows, right? So if we're looking for where price is ultimately going, it's moving sideways right now in this range. So overall, it looks like, so we had this, right? We had it come back up. So we want to see it come down right there in the short term. So we're still bearish expectation, right? We want to see these ran. We want to see it continue to go down just because we had this large move up and we didn't fill all the price in here. So let's look for what we can deem as short trades. So more recently, we're going to anchor ourselves, as always, to the hourly on a Friday or a Friday. Yeah, dig. So we're going to go ahead and draw our MBs more locally. So we saw price, right? Price came down, fell down, came up, right? It played around. Well, technically it went like this, right? Boom, boom, broke up, right? Broke here, and it came down. We could say where that come from. It came from somewhere down in here, right? Saw it continue up, right? Broke this. So then now we're waiting for a break here. And then we saw it come down, equal lows, right? And we finally saw a break there. So officially, you could say it wick, but it actually body closed here. So we'd be looking for some particular trade up in this, let's see here, 13,048.2 point level to the, let's get a bit more accurate actually. We're using lines now, but let's go ahead and find our supply zone here. And as we can see, price now is breaking below this area here, right? So beautiful area to look for sells off of. This beautiful area that I'm speaking of is the 13,081.2 to 13,114.4 levels. That is the range that I'm looking to potentially take shorts in. So we want to see price come from 12,960 points, start to move up, right? Higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. And we're going to see lower low, right? Lower high, lower low. To continue down all the way to this higher frame level zone here. And so this higher time frame MB, we're looking at this on the hourly, but if we were to go a higher time frame, we'd more than likely see this large block, right, or a structural point in the market from 12,516.8 to 12,959.9 level. So we want to see price come back into that area, and more specifically, when we want to go ahead and refine to the zone we're looking to buy off of for higher price action, because we ultimately want to bet for United States tech economy, not against it, since, you know, that would be against our best interest as people in the world who live in America, if you're watching this in America. So ultimately, we're going to refine that large area down to a smaller demand zone. And this demand zone is going to be from 12,516.8 to 12,572. And that is the range that we look to take sells down to and then buys up from, with the expectation to ultimately run these highs, which are in the form of 13,239.2 points. So that's ultimately what we'd be looking for. Now, again, we're waiting for price to go ahead and come up into the 13,081.2 to 13,114.4 zone, and then we would go ahead and go down the lower time frames and look for potential entries on shorts. So we'll leave that there for the NASDAQ. We're going to go ahead and put an alert here for the hourly. Right, so let's go ahead and bring up our trusty notepad. And as always, folks, I'm going to put my alert in. And I did actually have an issue this morning. I noticed that my actual server is not functioning properly. I need to go ahead and restart it. So let me go ahead and get that underway. But I won't do that during the video. Keep y'all all here. So we're going to go to the euro. And it looks like what we were looking at here was a completely different zone when we had when I was looking at price yesterday. But ultimately what we were looking for back on Wednesday was this particular zone to come and get tapped into. And it looked like it tapped into, but we're continuing to move sideways. So we filled a lot of this price action down here in between the $0.0964 pips to $0.09 and 16 pips, right? So we did fill a lot of that. Now it looks like we potentially want to continue bullish, so we're going to go ahead and go to a higher time frame. And yeah, so ultimately this market is definitely a bullish market at the moment. If we're looking at these areas here, we have structural points put in at, oh, you can't really see this, $0.09 and 77 pips to $1.08 and 32 pips. So we have a large level put in there. We could potentially see price come back down to this $1.08 32 pip to $1.08 and 61 pip zone. We could see it continue to move down. So if we're getting the full pullback here, but ultimately we have the bias to continue to run highs, and the highs we're looking to run are $1.10 and 76 pips here. This is 6 hours, so we're looking for price to continue up and ultimately run those highs, and we're looking for ways to get long. So with all of that being said, let's go ahead and obliterate a lot of this previous price action or previous markings that we had on our chart. Let's do that. Yeah, let's delete. Fantastic. So we don't have strike pajamas going on here, because we have this zone in here. It was a lower time frame zone, and it indeed did start moving sideways from it. We could potentially see more, but let's go down on the lower time frame to go ahead and observe what's actually going on here. Awesome. So we have this break up, large move up, right, comes back down. So if we're looking and we want to start becoming more precise with our trading, we start looking at these blocks. We say, well, how far did the next block come down into the previous block before validating the current block? So this, we're looking at these two here, right? So these two squares. So MBs is what we call them, mint blocks. So, boom, break up, right? Break up. And by the way, when I'm saying this is a concept that a very young trader came up with who's been doing this for quite some time. So when you start getting into the jargon, I don't want you to feel like you're missing anything. This is just a structural point in the market. And it was a very good way of breaking you down. So I'm going to stick to it. So we say, okay, well, how deep did that actually come into this particular area? And so then we start to measure it. And I'm just giving you some information here so you can continue to see that when you've seen a trending market, right? So you have something like this, right? It started to come down. We kept seeing breaking low. So then we say, well, how many lows were broken in this potential process, right? We had a pullback, then we had a broken low right here, right? We also had a wick up above the high, right? But we could say, hey, that's a fake out, and then we ended up continuing down. So we had 2 broken lows there, right? We had another broken low here, 3, right? Then we had another one, you could say, here, 4, before we started to show movement up. Then we had another broken low, 5, right? And so during this entire downtrend, right, we had 5 breaks. So same for the uptrend. Actually, we had 6 breaks. We had 6 breaks to the downside. So now let's use the same logic for the upside. And you continue to do this, by the way, over and over until you get an idea of how these markets actually move. So we had a break there, right? You could call that a break. Very, very small structural point. And it comes back to retest, and you could say, okay, well, finally broke here, right, in this area here. And then we could say, okay, well, it finally broke here, right? So what do we have already? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not 6 yet, right? So maybe we have 2 more breaks in us. And so then you just start to measure these things. You see that it pulled at least 50% back into that area. So maybe it wants to do that again, right? It doesn't have to do that again, but we want to go ahead and skew probabilities into our favor so that we make more accurate trades, right? So the trades we make have a higher probability of putting us on the winning side or going in our favor. And in our favor at this point means bullish. And so you can see here, I pulled this and it's almost about 50% dipped in here, right? We can see that we could potentially see it comes down like 70, 90%, 75 or 90% or something like that. 75 to 90%, which would be in that zone that we spoke about earlier. But the idea here is that we probably still have more breaks coming because we're still in a bull market here. All right, so what are we looking for? Ultimately, we want to see price continue down to $1.08, 58 pips. That's ultimately what we want to see before we start looking for buys. Unless we go down and we want to do some more lower time frame trading, right? In which case, we have a breakdown here and we have a range in this particular area. So I'd be willing to start looking for buys if we break above the $1.09 99 pips zone, or structural point. I'd definitely be willing to look for buys at that point. I see, you break up and then you look for the continuation. Because we have the sideways action, right? We want to see a nice, strong break to the upside, which it looks like we're starting to get. So that's going to be it for my Euro ideas. We want to wait for this to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this a bit further and put an alert on it. And I'm going to go ahead and say break of structure. Fantastic. Now let's go to one more. Let's just look at gold, see what's going on here. So we're going to go ahead and go up to the 6 hour. Now again, when we're looking at these markets, traditional logic in any trading scenario. The trend is your friend until the very end. And so then the idea is, how can we get in on the trend? Well, number one, what is the current trend? And if you're looking at this, it looks like we're starting to go bearish here. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove this. Right. So you see us starting. We had a nice little bearish push. Breaks. Right. Break above. Right. That's one. Break a two, three. Right. 4, 5. So it looks like maybe we're ready to cool off here. We could potentially see one more, right, reaccumulation to end up breaking this high here. I mean, secondary test, up thrust UTAD, sign of weakness, retest, breakdown. So it's more looking like we're starting to move into a bearish push here, or a slight pullback. So if we wanted to really micro it, right? Yeah, so we want to see something like on gold, right? We're looking at the entire area of 18,005.56 cents to 19,059.58 cents. We're looking at that entire area, and again, if we wanted to get an idea of how far we have to go for it to potentially pull back and look for a trade, because make no mistake, it's probably pulling back here. Right, we're getting pretty close to all-time highs, kind of, but not really. So I'd say I'm looking for a pullback here, and this is where, you know, you start bringing in some of these other things, right, for extra confluence. And so you see, like, we're in an uptrend, right? It's pretty clear here. Pretty clear we're in an uptrend. And so, again, we're going to just look for a pullback into here, or even further down to 50%. So this is probably short-term short mode, but what we're really looking for is we're trying to find a case to actually buy. So if we're looking here, break, you know, maybe we come down into here, and we are indeed. This might turn a little red, and then we look for an anchor for this one last push up, right, before pulling back, probably to go maybe as low as 18,081.96 in gold, or we just continue up depending on really the economic circumstances. You know, gold, take your gold back, right? So that's my quick and dirty analysis on gold. We're coming up on 17 minutes right now, so I'm just gonna stop there. Actually, I lied a bit. Let's go to Bitcoin real quick. Good old Bitcoin. And let's see what we got on Bitcoin. So we're going to go ahead and zoom out a bit. I mean, Bitcoin is just super volatile. You see these large pushes up. And, I mean, you saw this break here in a nice, really crazy pullback. And then we saw it break up, right? Pull back. Break up. Oof. Slight pullback. Break up again. Pull all the way back, break up again. Now, I mean, why not continue to run? We have a lot of choppy price action in here. So, I mean, ultimately, we want to see a reaccumulation. So we want to see in here start to stop and pull back up, and then, you know, sweeping lows, maybe faking out again, and then sweeping more lows here or something like that before breaking that. But we want to see some particular movement in that fashion, right? We need to see price start to want to move up again. Right now it's pretty sideways. And maybe we're due for a pretty large correction. We have a lot of area to move down in here. That's for sure. But then again, we have a large area to move up too. So really anybody's game at this point, but we want to start to see that the bulls are reigniting again. Here, this kind of catches you off guard, right? You know, they have this large move, and you're like, okay, well, can I get in on the pullback? And so then we can go ahead and put our CM slingshot, And it looks pretty bullish. Pretty bullish. We definitely want to look for areas we can get back in on. Definitely want to look for areas we can get back in on. So I'm going to go ahead and make this a line real quick. Let's do this. Can we do crosses actually? No, that doesn't look as good. Just make it a line. Looks better. Yeah, I mean, you have a pretty deep anchor here. Pretty deep anchor. You might be able to start seeing it start to move back in the opposite direction. Yeah, we need something strong. We know because we're looking on these lower time frames. We're starting to see that we're bearish, and so when it comes back up to here in these lower time frames, I'm expecting, yeah, okay, we would probably look for it to short down, right, come down, and then we want to see something major key, right? For instance, you see this, and then it pulls back onto here, then it starts to play around a lot. But then you start to get these indications that it wants to go back up, right? These heavy dots, heavy green dots, like down towards here. You start to see all of these green dots start to appear. But you also see here. So maybe 3 waves, 1, 2, 3. But we'll ultimately see, right? So on the lower time frames, it's looking like it's slight bearish, but it's with the idea that it's more bearish sideways until we see a large break to continue bullish. Because overall, I think we're bullish right now, bull mode. So anyways, I'm really gonna end this time, 21 minutes. Hope y'all learned something. Hope this was insightful, and you continue to learn every single day. You know, continue to keep doing stuff and living life. All right, so I hope y'all have a wonderful weekend. It's been your boy Trey Life with B-Phil. I'm out. Peace.